Today's topic is really all about year-end giving. Many of you might already be seeing articles, and or if you're like me, you're already getting pieces in the mail or emails about year-end giving. Nonprofits are this is the time of year where people ask for money. So what we're going to dive in, we're going to talk about the approach to get ready for those year-end giving campaigns, and what are some tips and tricks. Also, by way of introduction, I just want to make sure I emphasize I'm going to give you guys a lot of stuff. A lot of ideas, a lot of tips. And I just want to emphasize that the idea of a webinar is not to try to walk away with 15 new things you have to do. The idea is to either maybe even just one takeaway. I know many of you guys are already doing great work, but don't get overwhelmed. Don't feel like you're doing things wrong, but just maybe kind of absorb what we bring in, and maybe think about one or two new things you could try as a a new tip or tool or trick. I like to use the word tools a lot because I think fundraising is like you have this big toolbox. Inside that toolbox, you've got these tools, and we're going to give you some different tools to try out to hopefully be more successful. But with that, just know that your organization could be raising up to 40% of its donations during the last 6 weeks of the year if you use a variety of fundraising channel. For whatever reason, the last 2 months of the year, the last 6 weeks seems to be a big needle mover, as they call it, in the fundraising sphere. For whatever reason, people wait. It's certainly a huge time, and that's what we're going to talk about. So now is the time to attract those new donors, collect those unpaid pledges, and actually get new gift renewals. It's important to it's very important to know that your donors see and feel the efforts that you're taking to translate those dollars and the impact those dollars have. And we're going to talk a lot of year-end giving is not just about raising money, but raising awareness and communicating your message to your base, to whoever that is, whether you're an international organization or local or a church or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover the importance of year-end giving, and hopefully I'm going to give you some ideas about how to kind of maybe boost and maximize those efforts. So kind of as a starting point, I do like to share this slide with you. This is, if you haven't seen this, you don't know about this, every year Giving USA puts out, usually it's in about June or July of every year, they put out a report on all the philanthropy that happens the prior year. So this is reflective of 2017, so a year ago, 2017, and all of the fundraising or philanthropy that happens in the United States. It's a fascinating piece of work that comes out. There's lots of detail in it, but this is just kind of the one overview slide that I really like to talk about. Just know that in 2017, $410 billion, that's billions with a B, was given to philanthropy in the United States. This is an astonishing number. It's a number that continues to go up every year, even during the years where maybe the economy is not as good. I'm not an economy expert, so I can't tell you if it's great or not right now. I can just tell you that no matter what, philanthropy does tend to continue to rise, and it is growing. It went from, I think, 380 billion to 410 between 16 and 17. But the piece on this slide that I really want you to notice, maybe take a look on the right-hand side and see what organization you represent and kind of where you fall. You see that religion continues to still be the number one recipient of donations, education after that. But even more important, on the left-hand side, I'm going to kind of move my mouse around a little bit. You'll see that giving by individuals represents 70% of that $410 billion. This is a really, really important statistic to emphasize to people and to talk about, because you have to remember that as much as you hear about those big companies, the Amazons and the Microsofts and the Gates Foundations and all of that, it's the individuals that really make up the bulk of the giving. And my guess is that the majority of your money comes from individuals. So that's why we're going to talk about year-end giving, is we're going to really talk about how do you connect with those individual people who are writing those checks and going online and making those donations, or coming to you from social media or whatever. So you really want to emphasize it's not the grants, it's not the companies, though they're important. It's those individuals and how you connect with them. So if you again, this is a great statistic to look at. So here's some other year-end giving stats that you might want to be aware about. First of all, more than 174 million adult Americans plan to give money to charity between Thanksgiving and year-end. That's a lot of people, and there's a lot of emphasis on, for whatever reason, it's the giving season. It's the holiday season. People seem to be, in a particular giving mood. Things happen. Things are moving. Things are shaking. Between 35% and 42% of online giving happens in November and December. We are going to talk about online giving and tools and all of that. Online giving meaning where they go to a website and they give by credit card, either using their smartphone or computer. 40% of online gifts are made in December. So December is a real big month. Giving in December brings in about 1/3 of the fundraising dollars. So think about that $410 billion and think about December and all those charities that are bringing in money. More than 20% of all giving for the entire year occurs in the last 48 hours of the calendar year. This is something that I'll say a couple of times throughout, but it always astonishes me the number of nonprofits that ramp down instead of ramp up in December. In other words, they think, well, everybody's busy, so we're just going to shut the office down for 2 weeks. I always, as a fundraiser, my busiest time of year was October through December, and I would actually take vacation more in like February. Because people are recovering from the holidays and getting ready to pay taxes. That's just me. You all have to, your organization's best, but just know that it's a great opportunity. I found this one recently. This is a new slide to my deck, but I thought this was interesting. Just again, some key stats about year-end giving. 50% of the nonprofits out there receive the majority of their annual donations in the last 3 months. So again, starting about now, October through December. So a lot of you out there are really relying on this important season of the year. $48 billion is the average amount donated to nonprofits in November and December. So again, think about that $410 billion. Put that into quarters and think about how much of that is coming in this time of year. And then 52% first-time gifts are made by donors in December, then by donors who start their giving at another time of year. So for whatever reason, this time of year connects with people. It's been like this for a long time, and it's here to stay. And then over here on the right, you see our little Frosty the Snowman guy here. 30% of total annual giving occurs in December. So you can, again, I'm just going to emphasize the importance of it. Here's a few other stats. Again, just kind of taken from a variety of people and websites that I've read. Donors are projected to give through a variety of channels. We're going to talk about that. In other words, channels are the different ways in which people give. I love this one. Volunteers are twice as likely to donate than non-volunteers. A lot of you out there have a volunteer base, and you don't think to ask them to be involved on the financial side. You think, well, they're just giving their time, or my volunteers really can't afford or whatever. But we're going to talk a little bit about the opportunities you have with volunteers. 74% of adults plan to make a charitable contribution this holiday season. And then lastly on this one, 22% will contribute to just one organization. 55%, now think about this, 55% will spread their contributions across 2 or 3 organizations. The reason why this is important is some people think that donors are only committed to one charity, and the fact is in the holiday season, they do tend to spread it out. I know I personally give to 3 or 4 different organizations this time of year. I do that partly because I like to see how nonprofits are handling my donations and what kind of thank yous they're doing. But I do that partly because my wife and I also find year-end to be a nice time to give some of those charities that we love and are passionate about. As well as 23% will give to 4 or more nonprofit groups. So keep that in mind. Again, December dominates. That's kind of the bottom line here. This is a different version of kind of what we've already talked about. 29% of giving occurred in December. This was from another study that was taken somewhat recently. So let's get away from the stats and into the benefits. Why do you even want to have a year-end giving program? And when we talk about a year-end giving program, what we're talking about is an actual a goal, not just, hey, I'm going to just throw out a letter in the last 2 weeks. It's actually having a strategy about going about of who you're going to ask and how much you're going to ask for and what you're going to ask for. The holidays do tend to inspire people to give. It seems to be a natural season for giving and charity. I know some people would say, well, gosh, the holidays can be a sad time of year for people, but it's also a very happy time. People are already kind of in a spending mood, buying gifts, and that's why things like the Salvation Army bell ringers and those kinds of folks do real well at that time of year. Donors are sometimes seeking last minute or year end tax deductions. There is some truth to that. There's a lot of debate about how much people give for tax reasons versus not, but that is out there. Donors might have money left over in their philanthropic budget. I have seen this. Especially is true for businesses. A lot of times companies have kind of a use it or lose it policy in their budgets, and so they might be looking to dump some money at the end of the year. For a lot of people, that's the end of a fiscal year as well. So that's a good thing to look at. Year-end donations do tend to be larger than gifts made during other times of the year, including times of disaster or crisis response. So in spite of like hurricane, fire, floods, and all that other stuff, for whatever reason, the holidays do tend to spike larger gift amounts. End of the year is an excellent way to tell your story and communicate the mission of your organization. I can't emphasize this enough. Don't think about year-end giving as just a way to raise money, but also to raise awareness and to tell your story and communicate the great work that's being done because of the donors. Year-end is an excellent tool to tell donors how past gifts were being used and highlight that success. So if people are just feeling like you're just asking them for money like an ATM machine, they'll most likely not want to give again or continue to give. So this is a great way to tell your story. And then finally, year-end giving can be a potential gold mine for your organization. And I say this not only, again, not just for raising money, but also for bringing new donors and new people to your organization and getting those into your contact list. So when we talk about types of donors, who are we talking about? Who should you be looking at? What kinds of donors are potentially out there that you can be targeting for year-end giving? The first is going to be your annual donors. These are people that do give every year, many this time of year. So you want to make sure you know who those annual donors are in your software if you're using one, or in your books or roles. Obviously, you have new prospects. Maybe throughout the year, you've gained some people into your contact list. Maybe they came to an event. Maybe they came with a friend. For whatever reason, you got a business card and they ended up in your system and they haven't yet given. We call these prospects. These are people that maybe you want to target a specific letter. You've built a friendship. You've built a relationship to your organization. The old LIBENTs and SIBENTs, you see the little cartoon on the right and left. Yes, LIBENTs and SIBENTs are not baseball terms, but they are in fact fundraising terms. If you don't know this term, a LIBENT is somebody who gave last year, but unfortunately not this year. And a SIBENT is somebody who gave some year, but unfortunately not this year. These are a great target for your organization. And if you are not using software or don't know how to find these people, it's really important you learn on how to dig up people who maybe once gave. There's a lot of reasons why people fall off your radar. Many times it's not. It's as simple as maybe they just moved, or you had a wrong zip code or something like that. So finding out who those people are that once gave and try to re-engage them back into your organization. There's, of course, those prospective major donors, folks who you've been working on for a while, or maybe they've increased their gift and they're ready for even a larger gift. So those are people you want to be thinking about. And then converting those volunteers to donors. Again, I'm a big believer on asking donors or volunteers to also be donors. It's a great base. They're already giving you a lot of time. And so don't stop there. Don't think or take the approach that, oh, well, they're giving me time, therefore they don't want to donate. I think a lot of volunteers do want to donate. They just want to be asked. So with that, we're going to kind of dive into a little bit and talk about what are the different channels. In other words, how do you request money? What are ways in which people can give to your organization for year end? There's a variety of different ways. The first and probably the oldest kind of one in out there is what we call snail mail, or other we'll call it direct mail. Those are those pieces that you get in your mailbox, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Some are elaborate, some are very simple, some come with little things in the envelope like return address labels, which I have no idea how I get on some lists sometimes, but I get a whole stack of return address labels or stickers or buttons, all sorts of fun stuff. I'm not going to spend too much time on the strategy of that. Just know, it's still an effective tool. There's lots of ideas about what works and what doesn't. We can talk about that during the Q&A if you want, but it is an effective, but it's also a very expensive way to raise money. Email, of course, email has got its own positive and negatives. One thing that happens with email a lot is how do you prevent emails from not getting bounced or opened? So there's some discussion there, but it is an effective strategy. Donor giving pages and websites obviously becoming more popular as technology increases. People are going more towards those giving pages and websites. Social media, of course, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, blog, Snapchat. These are all things that can kind of make your head spin, but are also can be really effective ways to raise money. And in all of these things, I want to again emphasize there's not one strategy that's, I would say, better or worse. It's a matter of having a multi-channel approach. I think phone calls are still very effective in giving. That could be like a phone, not a paid phone center, but like when volunteers or board members or people that work within your organization reach out to donors. And then last, mobile giving, definitely on the rise, definitely something that more and more people want to be able to click on their smartphone, press a button or two, and make a donation that way. Some study-proven recommendations. Just some things to think about as you're thinking about your own year-end giving program is 2/3 of the new donors do not do research before donating. So this is kind of surprising. Many times it is sort of a last-minute decision. A majority of donors choose new charities solely based on recommendations and word of mouth. For this reason, it's really critical that you do your outreach efforts easy and share through email and social media. In other words, you should really be pumping out those stories right now, getting the message out there of who you are. 70% donate through multiple channels, meaning that 7 out of 10 Americans will donate through multiple channels, utilizing a multi-channel outreach approach for end of the year. What this means is that they don't just send an email, or they don't just send a snail mail, or they don't just do Facebook. They do a variety of all three, and they tie them all together. So this is that multi-channel approach that we're talking about. Volunteers are twice as likely to donate. Again, this kind of emphasizes something that I've already mentioned about those volunteers. Those who volunteer their time are also more likely to donate money to the cause because they care about it. They're invested. They've seen it on the ground. They've seen you guys work. They love you guys. So that's why I think volunteers are an awesome group of people. Try promoting unique volunteer opportunities in your year-end thank you. In other words, really get those folks invested, make them feel like they own part of that, that ask or that project. 2 touches is the most common degree of outreach, meaning that a 2-touch approach is that at the end of the year, that you're not only just sending people stuff, you're not only asking for money, but you're also thanking them. You're asking them a couple of times, you're reaching out to them, all of that. So we can, if you have any questions about that, we can talk about that. So Again, what channels? We talked about this a little bit. We have your direct mail, your email, your website, and your in-person. So you see that direct mail does tend to still be a big dominator in the market. I would say the one downside about direct mail is that it can be time consuming, in that if you want to drop an effective direct mail piece, you need to be working, it's 6 to 8 weeks out to plan it, write it, prepare it, use a mail house, drop it, all of that. It also can be kind of expensive. Email marketing, is 92% in popularity, websites, and then in person. And I think this is changing. I'm seeing less direct mail, but I still get a lot of it. Let me just pause here for just a quick second and see. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any new questions, so that's great. If you do have any questions at any point, just type them in the question box, and at the very end, we'll do some Q&A and dive into this a little bit more. It looks like everything else is going well. I know we had a couple people that logged in a little late, so we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us in. So what are some ways to boost your year-end giving program? If you're kind of just currently not sure, first of all, set a specific target or goal. Create a campaign. A campaign can be a great way to really generate enthusiasm and help you establish a goal. Make sure that goal is clear, measurable, and realistic. In other words, don't think you're going to raise $1 million in 2 weeks or a month if you're an organization that only raises $300,000 all year or something like that. Ask yourself, what are you trying to accomplish? Picture what your ideal end result will be. So this is planning. This is something you guys want to talk about as an organization. If you have paid staff, you want to talk about it as a staff. If you're all volunteers, again, no matter what, how big or small your nonprofit, church, or ministry is, you want to be talking about that or asking these questions. Who is it you're trying to reach? Decide on your key audiences before you planning your campaign. If you think just popping something on Facebook and having people like and reshare it is going to work, you might want to rethink, who are you trying to reach? Or is it your people that already know you? Is it people that don't know about you? Is it a combination of both? Is it your current donors? Those are all questions that you want to think about in your marketing. What do you want them to do? Have a clear call to action for your supporters. I see many, many nonprofits who are doing great work. They get their message out there, and they aren't clear about what they want me as the potential donor to do. Besides, we'll donate, but donate to what? Donate how much? What's it going to do? What's the impact? And then think about what is the best way to reach your audience. You know your people the best. If you have people that respond to email, make sure you're emailing them. If you have a younger audience that wants social media, make sure you're utilizing social media. And then again, this feels a little repetitive, but I just want to reemphasize using that multi-channel approach whenever possible. So, for example, you might do a direct mail piece, but also do a version of that in an email. Do a shortened version of that and send out an email. It can be to the same people, but it also could be to a different segment of people that prefer email. I'm sure you all have a database of some kind, and you have people that do have emails and people that don't. So maybe send an email to the ones that have an email, and then send a direct mail to those who don't, or something like that. And again, phone calls, Facebook, Twitter, these will all bring in more money than relying on just one channel. In other words, if you just send an email and walk away, you might be leaving some money on the table. Coordinate any direct mail with an online campaign that reinforces that message by using your website, newsletter, social media. In other words, you might send out a letter that has a story about a little kid that's been served by your organization. Make sure you have that same story up on your website and tell people in the letter, hey, for more information or to learn more about this child or this story or this product or program, go to our website. Boom. Click to the website and use that as a way to continue on that story, kind of thing. Mention your website donation page in all pieces and vice versa. Make sure that you're cross-promoting each other. In other words, if I get a direct mail piece, I might not have time to stick a check in the envelope that's provided or not. I might not have a stamp, but I might want to go to the website. Dang it, I can't find the website. So make it easy for donors as possible. And then last but not least, if you cannot afford to do a direct mail piece, or you're just now getting going on your campaigns and your press for time, make sure you mention the campaign on your website, social media, and any newsletter that goes out before December 31st. The nice thing about online donation pages in this day and age, and I'm going to show you an example of that in a few minutes, is that you can get an online donation page up and going in about 5 minutes if you have the right software. So you don't have to do a lot of preparing for that. Some other tips or things to think about on how to boost your year-end giving is use compelling stories and photos. Identify stories about the impact your organization is making in your community where you serve. And where you serve. So, in other words, don't just send a picture of a building, but make sure you're showing a picture of people inside the building that are being affected by that building and why it was built, or something like that. Keep your stories short, 2 to 3 paragraphs at most. I know there's a little bit of debate, especially in the direct mail, about how long it should be. I tend to be one that, because I don't have time to read 2, 3, 4 pages of stories. So I believe short and powerful. Use one story per message over the course of the campaign. So if you don't inundate people, so that they can kind of remember those stories or those people. Highlight how donors are making a difference. Again, this is I've talked about this in some of my other webinars, but too many times we as nonprofits, and I have been guilty of this, we talk about how great we are and the work we are doing, instead of saying how great the donors' gifts make the impact. So talk about your donors, and without them, we wouldn't be around. This is the time to tout your achievements, meaning your story should focus on the people you help and the memories you create for people who live and work in the community. So this is a great time to get out there and kind of brag about the great work that's happening. Not that you're doing, but because of the donors. Highlight 1 or 2 donors or businesses and how they're helping make a difference. I got a piece the other day that highlighted one of their business partners, and it was really neat because not only did the business donate, but a lot of the people in that business were volunteers for that organization. I thought that was really cool. Be sure and accept online gifts and donate now. So some things to think about. Make sure your website can receive online gifts. And if you can't, you want to make sure you get into that. Make it easy to give. Talk to your webmaster and add this feature today. There are a number of services that can help you with this feature. If you are one that is completely out of the do not know how to do this, please contact me after this webinar and we can help you. Make sure you put a donate now button on your homepage. And ask yourself, can visitors easily find where to click to donate? I talked about this with somebody just the other day about the number of websites I've gone to where I can't even find the donate now button. I want to just pause here for 1 second, and I am going to I'm going to take a pause in the webinar, and I'm going to show you a couple websites here real quick. This is actually one of our Aplos customers. They're called Macarios International. Hopefully you guys can all see that. I'm just going to make sure you guys are all okay. Yep. And I do see your question, Kay, and I'll come back to that here in a little bit if that's okay. But now what you're looking at is a website. What I really like about them is they're very, very clear right here about what they want me to do when I go to the website. They want me to donate to their impact fund. They're doing a lot of emphasis on this. So, of course, I go right here and I'll know what to do. Also, right up here, their Donate Now button is very, very clear and very easy to get to. So I think they've done a really nice job. When I hit their Donate Now page, again, it gives me a lot of options of what I need to do. It doesn't take me long to figure that out. Similarly, if you go to this other website, I love Doctors Without Borders. They are an international organization that I have a lot of respect for. Again, this is their website, and it's very, very obvious when you go to their website what they want you to do. Very easy to give. They give me gift amounts. They give me my payment options. I don't have to search very hard or very long to figure out what to do here. So the information's clear, the instructions are clear. It's showing me a picture of impact. It's telling me a little bit about what they do. All of that's really great. It's a secure website. There's, again, a donate now button there. So these are just some quick examples I wanted to share with you guys really quickly. So back to here. And again, make sure that donate now button is big. Make sure that it works. And test it out a couple of times. What I encourage people to do is, before you ever ask a donor to donate to your website, make sure you yourself donate to your website, even if it's a couple bucks, and evaluate your experience as a donor. Was it easy to give? Was it easy to get to? Did I get an automatic receipt? All of those little things that make a difference. Again, tell your story. Tell people what you want them to do as you're telling your story. I've seen some great pieces out there. I've seen some great stories, but they leave one thing out. What do you want me to do? How should I respond? Charity Water is one of my favorite organizations out there as being great storytellers. If you Google Charity Water, you'll hit their website. They have wonderful social media. They utilize Instagram and Twitter, but I love how they tell stories. Just the pictures are compelling, but they will always tell you what they want you to do, but also how the money that you give makes a difference. And all going back to getting water into countries and areas where that's needed. Some other things to think about you want to do is make sure you're cleaning up those mailing lists. Review both your email and regular mailing lists, and determine which one is larger, newer, and more complete. Lots of people out there, they waste a lot of money and time and effort because they haven't done the work cleaning up those mailing lists. This is a good time of year to do that. You want to segment your mailing list so you know who your donors are and who you are mailing to. If you don't know the term donor segmentation, what this basically means, sorry about that, is for example, an example of this would be if you just got a gift from somebody and you turn around and you send them a new appeal letter, they might think, wait a minute, I even got a thank you for my first gift, and now you're asking me for more money. So segmenting means that you're going to take maybe people who haven't given in the last 60 days and send them the year end, or I'm going to email one group one thing and another group something else. So understanding who's in your database and who wants mail, who wants email, who doesn't, those kinds of things. Make sure you personalize your email list. So look at it. Make sure you have first names and last names. I'm a big believer that of saying, dear Dan and Suzanne, which is my wife, versus dear friend or dear neighbor or something like that. I think that the more personal you can make it, the more people are going to respond in a positive light. And clean up those mailing lists. Look for duplicates. Make sure you copy information into the appropriate record before deleting addresses. That's kind of seems like obvious, but I did receive 3 pieces the other day from a local organization. One to me, another one to my wife, and another one to me and my wife together. And I thought, that's a lot of money you just spent to send me a little magazine that I now have 3 times. And by the way, I think I asked them a year ago to take me off their list. So just be thinking about that and how that looks and feels. Make sure you're reviewing your giving levels and always ask for reoccurring gifts. These are simple forms that you can create where you can get people for a very simple process saying, hey, you can give us $20 a month and the impact that can make. Okay. Make those donation forms simple. Don't ask for more information that you need. People don't want to spend a lot of time on an online donation form. We here at Aplos have an online donation form that we can show you. If you're interested, it's easy to create. You can put a lot of information, but typically beyond just an email, which is typically required, maybe a phone number and an address. But beyond that, I wouldn't spend a lot of time trying to get too much information out of them. And then again, make sure you link that Donate Now button page. Your direct mail letters and e-letters should link directly to the donation page as well. Okay. Call people to action, which is donate. This is the time of year you want people donating. I know there's a lot of content in here, and we're going to kind of make sure we'll have a lot of time for questions. But again, lots of good ideas that folks have had. So another way you can boost your year in giving is make sure you're crafting a strong appeal. What this means is that you're spending a little time and that your appeal is really well thought out, that you've sat down and you've really written out what it is that we want to communicate. So the appeal needs to be equal parts emotion and urgency. If people think that you don't really need the help, they're not going to help. So you want to pull at the heartstrings, but you also want people to act right away. So you want to pull people into your message with that compelling story, and then push them to act with a specific, clear, and urgent call to action. So what this means is, don't spend the first paragraph talking about the executive director and all the things that he or she have done the past year. Start the letter with a story about a kid or a story about somebody within your organization that has been impacted by the work that you do. If you're an international organization, there's lots of opportunities, obviously, to tell stories there. Show people how donations will be used and how they've been used. Tell them all the great things that they, being the donors, have done, and all the wonderful things that more support will bring. That's why those donor stories are so important. Be very specific. Don't assume your donors know what you want them to do. Ask them for one concrete action. $10 a day, $50 a year, or $100 a year, or whatever. This is what it's going to do. Asking people to click on a button to donate now is better than asking them to support your campaign. So by donating now, you're going to change the life of somebody. Or if you're a recovery program, by clicking this button today, 2 people will come off the streets for recovery or something like that. Remember, it's not all about you. Instead of only talking about how great you are, share stories about your donors, volunteers, and beneficiaries. There's a lot of books and articles and blogs about this idea right now, about being what we call donor-centered or donor-centric fundraising, and storytelling. It's really probably the thing that I hear the most of in the nonprofit experts, blogs and things like that. I'm a big believer in sharing a photo. You can create you don't have to pay a professional. You can take some really nice photos with your own smart devices and things like that. People will give more when they feel they're helping another person to whom they can relate. So instead of talking about the masses, focus on maybe one person's story or something that the average person can say, yeah, I think I can do that, or I can understand that. All right, so let's take a deep breath right here. I know there's a lot of content. This actually, Sea Turtle, has nothing to do with the content of Year in Giving, other than I just want to say I know I'm throwing a lot of points at you. So just kind of maybe take a deep breath and swim the ocean for a minute, and just remember that if you can walk away from this webinar with just maybe 1 or 2 things, that's absolutely fine. The idea isn't for you to go, we're doing everything wrong. Rather, hey, this is something we can improve on. Okay? So we're going to do a few more things, and then again, towards the end here, we'll leave some time for some Q&A. Now, on to the thank you side of things. So we've talked about how to get your message out there, but this is an area that I think a lot of people leave off the table when they plan their campaigns. Is they get the pieces out there, they get ready to collect the donations, but they forget about the thank you side of things. So first of all, have a thank you strategy. Who's going to thank whom? What's the thank you process going to be? How often are they thanked? All of those kinds of things. So first of all, write a thank you letter now. Everyone who gives a gift, whether by check or online, should receive a paper thank you letter. Online givers should get a thank you letter that does not look or sound like a receipt within a week. I'm a big believer in this. I know that we have a lot of churches out there that might not do this the same way. That's fine. These are just a suggestion. I do not believe that automated email receipt serves as a proper thank you. But again, that's something you want to think about. Some experts, Joan Gary being one, a few others will say thank donors at least 3 times. They want to make sure they get a thank you when they make a donation, when they get your email receipt, and when they get your thank you letter in the mail. This is something you can assign a volunteer to send out thank you letters once a week during the last 6 weeks of the year. So bring some extra volunteers in and get those thank yous out. Make sure you automate your thank you emails, send an immediate thank you, but then make sure that the donation experience is quick and easy so that the donor gets more information about your organization. Maybe you want to utilize social media like Twitter or Facebook to, after somebody donates, you might want to encourage them to go to social media and tweet about it or post about it themselves. Or some nonprofits create a thank you page where as people donate, they say, hey, can we put you on a thank you page? And they start to thank people. So again, giving donors an easy opportunity to talk about their involvement can help spread your message through other people. It's like the peer-to-peer kind of process. And then if you have time and you have the capacity, I believe sending handwritten thank you cards and making appointments at this time of year is also really important. Your most important donors should not get a letter or an e-blast. They need to be contacted in person. So if you have some really committed donors, especially committed large donors, I would suggest you maybe not send them that year-end appeal, but you call them and meet with them face-to-face and ask them for their involvement. Few other things, use a target-specific approach, meaning you want to maybe identify the 10 or 15 major donors who have yet to give this year. These are just sort of additional ideas other than those classic email blasts and direct mails. Maybe you want to identify 50 donors and make face-to-face calls. A face-to-face call basically means going and meeting them for coffee or a one-on-one type of thing, and ask them for their year-end gift. Face-to-face, meaning a direct ask person to person, is a really effective tool if you have the time and capacity. Again, don't let reluctant volunteers hold you back. You might have a few volunteers that don't seem like they want to give, but there's others that do. Don't forget to add to your prospect list, meaning that as you're collecting information about people, you have friends coming in to the organization, get them on your mailing list. Use a visual and emotional hook in your appeal letter. We talked about that. And make your appeal letter attractive and easy to read. If it's too small, if the type's too small, if it's 3 pages long with lots and hard to read, they're not going to respond. And then plan 1 or 2 follow-ups the very last 2 days of December. Let's pause for a second and talk a little about Giving Tuesday. I wish I could do a raise of hands, but if you don't know what Giving Tuesday is, Giving Tuesday happens on the Tuesday after Black Friday, which is after Thanksgiving. So it has kind of been declared in the nonprofit sector as sort of the unofficial day of giving. It's really a social media driven thing more than anything. There is good and bad of it. I personally would say don't spend a lot of time on it. I wouldn't spend a lot of resources on it. I think it's good to be involved in. I think it's a great way to promote stories. I think statistically people are showing that though there is gifts given on Giving Tuesday, I think most people would agree it's not necessarily the mother lode that maybe people had hoped. But it is a great way to encourage people to pause during the hustle and bustle of the holidays and stop and think about charity. So my point on this slide more than anything is at the minimum, get involved on social media and encourage people to at least pause and think about or tell a story on Giving Tuesday. If you have a thought or an opinion about that, I would love to hear from you in the question box on that. Again, we talked about online donation pages. I showed you an example. I'm not going to go through all these points other than to say your online donation page needs to be short. It needs to be easy to get to, easy to read, and some of those real simple things that we talked about. I wouldn't spend a lot of time with heavy text on your online donation page, meaning that show an impact, but I wouldn't, spend up 4 paragraphs of text on that page. Make it easy to read. Go easy on the eyes. Some people get a little carried away. They think that crazy colors and 5 pictures, and they go a little heavy. Make it simple and clean. Think about your own experience on a donation page, what you like and what you don't like. That's why I showed you those 2 examples. And again, provide a warm online thank you after the donation. Okay, so I don't think I need to get too much more in here on the online pages. I like this one a lot. This was from the Special Olympics. Couple of things, again, faces can often draw attention from a call to action, but in this particular one, what they've done, which I think is really brilliant, is they have the face, and the face is looking towards towards the donation itself. So you look at this sweet little girl, and boom, your eyes kind of go here to the right. I thought that was really cleverly done. Sometimes you can get so distracted in the picture that you forget that there's a little donate now button somewhere over here. I like pre-selected donation amounts, as many as possible, with the other being the last. And then also the checkbox is pre-selected to cover the transaction fees. If you aren't currently doing this, I would suggest you look into an online donation page builder that allows the donors to pay the transaction fee. We do that here at Aplos on our page. I know some don't do that currently, and I would suggest you do that yourselves. Just some final thoughts, and then we'll kind of get into some questions as I know that several have come in. Again, year-end fundraising should be an important part of your overall fundraising strategy. Some nonprofits call it the sort of the Super Bowl. I think for me, sadly, with all the hustle and bustle of the holidays, I think, as I said in the very beginning, many nonprofits gear down. I think you should be gearing up and really take advantage of this season of great opportunity. And it really is a great opportunity, one, to get your message out there, but also to raise some money and really communicate out and start building relationships with those donors. So some resources here for you. Again, you'll all receive a copy of this slide deck. These are just some folks that I like. Some of the slides that I shared in this email came from some of these people who I have a lot of respect for. John Hayden is a great marketer. If you want a good resource on different types of styles and effective marketing tools, John Hayden is really good, and some other folks here as well. Okay, so just some other resources. So at this point, what I'm going to do is we're going to do some Q&A. It's kind of your time to ask questions and or offer any other ideas or input. So we're going to start right up here with Kay. And Kay asks, we have our gala the week before Thanksgiving. Is it too much to kick off a new ambassador program in October, which requires a minimum $30 a month donation? We will be asking those that have attended the gala in the past. And I would say no. I think in some ways you could treat it as 2 different campaigns, but the 2 come together. So I would say no. Here in the Central Valley, where we're located here at Aplos, September, October tends to be one of the most popular time for banquets and galas, partly because it's really one of the best times of weather in our area. So I get invited to a lot of fundraising banquets, followed up by end of the year appeals. So I think that's okay. Events and end of year giving can certainly live together. So I think that's an excellent question, Kay, and I hopefully that helps. And I like the ambassador program that you're doing. So good luck with that. From Ryan, How much to sign up for an Aplos webpage within the with the donate button? Mine currently is with Weebly and no donate button. I am almost done becoming a nonprofit. Oh, congratulations, Ryan, on becoming a new nonprofit. So at Aplos, the way it works with us is that if you have an Aplos subscription, the website build our website builder comes. I'm sorry, the online donation page comes with the software. So there's no extra fee for it other than you would have to subscribe at some level of our software. Ryan, if you'd like to talk with me a little bit more about that, we can communicate offline. I'm going to leave my contact information here. But here at Aplos, in fact, and I can show you a little bit more of how that works. So again, feel free to check us out on that. Okay. Any other questions here? We had a question from Tony. How to know generous donors prefer to be approached for a donation? Oh, how to know how donors prefer to be approached? I think, Tony, sometimes it's just ask them or look at their past. If they've given in the past, what was the tool that they gave to in the past? So it's a really good question. Some people, that's still kind of a new and intimidating area for them, which is, am I going to embarrass myself and all that? If you're doing your research well, one of the classic fundraising sayings that's out there is making sure you're asking the right person for the right gift at the right time for the right project. And those happen if you're doing your homework. In other words, if you're getting to know those donors and building a relationship with those donors, building up good information. I had donors when I did fundraising that very specifically said, I don't necessarily like to come out to galas and big fundraisers, but I love one-on-ones. So I knew that. I put a note in their record, or vice versa. People that, preferred email over phone calls. Some people just only wanted a phone call. So I think those are things that you start to develop a rhythm with. Yeah, can you go into more detail on the differences on web service and web page options? So, yes, I can. Thank you, Jack, for that question. I can do that. For me, the language I'm using is obviously, you all have a website. Within your website, what you're doing is you're creating a donate now button, which is going to link you to a web page builder. Web page builder is going to be as simple as PayPal. There's probably 24 what we call online donation processors. Here at Aplos, we use WePay. That's WEPAY. WePay is our online donation processor. And within what we are able to do is allow people to, in a sense, build those online donation pages. Let me actually escape out of this, and then David, I'll get to your question next and show you another example of that. So again, in the case of Macarios, this is their website. Macarios is a customer of Aplos. If you go to, say, their missionary page, just for the sake of whatever, this is taking you to a website or a donation page. So many software companies, like our partner Bloomerang and others, provide these. We provide it as part of Aplos. This is a page where you can customize. As you can see right up here, they've customized a nice photo. They've done a little bit of some instructions, what they want you to do. And then again, I'd like to pay the transaction fee. So that's pretty much how it works. What you want to be shopping for, you shouldn't really have to pay to put up a page. You might have to pay a subscription for a software, and then you want to look at transaction fees. Those are always the big one on transaction fees. So hopefully I answered your question well for you on that. So let's go back to the question. So Jack, let me know if I if I answered that. A website builder obviously is where you can build your own website. So David asked, if you have a donor, let's say you have a donor who's giving large amounts already through the year, you suggest to approach them in person and make the year-end ask. Any tips not to make it feel like we're asking someone who's giving a lot already even more? Yeah, that's a good question, David. I mean, I would say, ultimately on that one, if they say they gave a gift in September of a large amount, to go back to them in November and ask again, that could be a little bit much. I think on that one, the tips are going to be, what conversations can you have with that donor where you can go and, first of all, talk to them about how their current donations are being used. So in other words, go back to them after those a couple of those large gifts and talk to them about some things that are happening. Ask them how they feel like things are going. What are some feedback that they have about the way their gifts are being used? Some people don't care. Some people say, you know what, give it to the general fund, pay the lights, pay the salaries, I don't care. Some people really want to be involved. So I think by having as many one-on-one conversations in person with donors, you'll really learn a lot and listen. My friend Jay Frost, who is a great fundraising consultant, talks a lot about what we call, and it came from Jerry Panis, actually, who unfortunately recently passed away, but one of the great fundraisers said, you listen for the gift. Meaning when you go out, if you're just talking about your organization and all the work you're doing and you don't stop and talk about to donors, you want to listen for the gift. You want to listen for triggers that maybe they're ready to give again or give more. And more than anything, just want to communicate what is the need for them. So David, I hope that helps a little bit. I think it's a timing thing. I think if somebody gave in June or July, yeah, I think end of the year might be a good time. If you have large donors, sometimes end of the year, they're looking for more things to give to. Yes, you're very welcome, David. Okay, so kind of getting ready to kind of wrap things up. Once again, if you we'll be sending you a copy of this webinar. You'll have access to the slides if you enjoyed some of that. I would appreciate your feedback. So if you have any other thoughts or stories you want to tell, feel free to email me. You can again reach out to me on Twitter. We are thankful. Karen's comment here is fundraising is truly an art. Karen, all I can say to that is amen. It is not a perfect science, and it is definitely an art in terms of getting everybody does things a little different. Every organization's a little different. What contact list software gives the most options simply? Jack, let me reread this question. What contact list software gives the most options simply? I'm not 100% sure I understand your question, Jack. So if you want to either shoot me an email or re-ask the question, there's lots of softwares out there. I would encourage you guys to look at softwares that where you don't have to have 4 or 5 different pieces of software to do stuff. In other words, I think a donor management software like Aplos is a great solution because we offer a lot of tools within that software. But if I'm understanding that right, you all have different budgets, you all have different needs, so you'll have to kind of assess that. Here at Aplos, one of the things that we've done and what we're doing is, giving you as many tools as possible under the same platform. That's just a goal of ours. Okay, well, that looks like that's it, and we're about out of time. I want to be respectful of your time. So again, thank you so much for being a part of our webinar. Last comment from Tony: I like listening for triggers, buy signs in a one-to-one meeting. Great, that's great, Tony. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, you'll be getting a copy of this, and you have my contact information here. So want to thank you for spending an hour with us here at Aplos webinar, and wish you all a great day and good luck with your end-of-the-year giving campaigns. Thanks, everybody.